Your country has two world wonders. First, the Great Wall of China. Second, you, the corporate slave who is just a number in the government's success statistics. Oh, who am I kidding? You're not much different from the manual laborers who built that 21,000-kilometer long wall. For 2,000 years, the empire has commanded one generation after another to build a wall whose purpose only God knows. Some say it's to fight the Mongol invasion, others say it's against the Manchu, and some even claim it's against monsters, like in the movie where the hero is Matt Damon. Whatever the reason, you are not the main character in the history of this super long wall. I told you, you are just a number. Word-of-mouth stories and steely documentation only record the emperor. Always the emperor. You only know two things. First, the wall looks like a dragon resting on the mountains. Second, you have to keep building it. You and millions of other souls who should be living peacefully in the village are instead forced to risk your lives working on steep mountainsides to build the Great Wall. It's not just stone. The components of this wall are dust, sweat, and the spirits of your deceased friends. Although, actually, the reason you were forced to work is quite reasonable, for your own security. But today, let's focus on you, the NPC in a world wonder. Whatever profession you choose, you will end up holding a large hammer and a chisel. Your tranquil life in the village became tense after the palace announced that the empire needed labor for construction, including you. So you set off for the barracks, leaving your family behind. The heartbreaking chapter of your life has just begun. You wake up before dawn, not by the crow of a rooster, but by the harsh gong sound by the foreman. The cold mountain air pierces through your thin clothes. Yet, your sleep wasn't very sound either, because in the barracks, built from rough wood and straw without adequate heating, you are crammed in with hundreds of other men. Unfortunately, there is no time for laziness or even just to stretch. Immediately upon waking, you line up for breakfast. A thin bowl of congee, watery rice or millet porridge, and maybe a few pieces of salted vegetables as a condiment. Don't expect to get meat in a situation that the palace deems highly urgent. You have to work until dusk on that breakfast. Before the light of dawn appears from behind the hills, you have to put on thick head and arm coverings. Not for comfort or fashion, but to protect your skin from rough stones and the friction of ropes. From the barracks, you start tying your tools to your chest or waist. Steel chisels, sledgehammers, and woven baskets for transporting materials. After that, you prepare for the climb. As I said, your work environment is a steep mountain. Accidents and death always loom, even from the very first step. Be thankful if you climb during the dry season. Otherwise, well, the trails are slippery with ice in winter and mud in the rainy season. The hardest part? Transporting raw materials. Literally, the heavy part. You carry granite and marble rocks from quarries miles away, often on your own back, or with a simple wheelbarrow if one is available. For larger blocks of stone, you use a super ancient pulley system that requires dozens of men to pull the ropes simultaneously. This is where you realize the knowledge of your ancestors is indeed very useful. But be careful though. Every step is a gamble with your life. I warned you earlier, one wrong footing will send you tumbling into a rocky ravine. One broken rope will cause raw materials to fall on you. If you're not careful, the mountain will send you straight to the afterlife. But say you survive. Nature can't kill you, but maybe the place itself will be your grave. Your hard work is also under strict supervision. Foremen armed with whips and sticks constantly monitor every movement. Their eyes are sharp like an eagle's, their hands ready to strike anyone who is disobedient and useless. Your extremely low status doesn't allow you to have workers' rights. Working slowly means you're asking to be whipped. If you fall ill, it means you're asking to be left behind. No one will, and no one should care about you. You will die alone. So, work hard. Speaking of hard work, the real thing only starts when you reach the top of the wall. The Ming Dynasty built the wall with an extraordinary level of complexity. The exterior is solid brick or stone slabs, while the core is filled with compacted earth, gravel, and also super sticky glutinous rice flour. Your task today is compaction. After the core material is filled with earth, you have to compact that earth repeatedly with a large wooden sledgehammer, ensuring there is no empty space. If this were the modern era, perhaps the sound of the sledgehammers and your shouts of effort would have become a trend that ended up as brain rot on TikTok. Unfortunately, the rhythm of the sledgehammers becomes an orchestra of suffering, echoing at high altitudes. Dust flies everywhere, getting into your eyes, nose, and lungs. Your shouts of encouragement are merely disguised cries of sadness. Not to mention you have to deal with the sky. Working on the Great Wall is a struggle against the weather, which fortunately was still consistent with the calendar back then. but it still feels like being punished by the heavens. Whatever sin you committed in your life, the deity you worshipped constantly turned your world into a hell like this. In the summer, the sun burns your skin until it blisters. Yes, you wear long sleeves and cloth covers your head, but the exposed parts often become lunch for the midday sun. In the village, you could take shelter under the roof of your comfortable home, but you are now in the open, on a high slope, with no protection from the heat except what's on your body. In the winter, the wind comes from the direction of Siberia. The wind is not strong, but it is fierce and bites your skin, which is only covered with thin cloth. Your sturdy hands, which you use to swing the hammer, are now difficult to move. The cold wind turns your hands stiff, sometimes even freezing into claws that can't grip. Regardless, you still have to work non-stop. The wall must be finished, while the illusion of returning home continues to haunt you, becoming a mirage in the cold mountains. But let's enjoy life, even if only a little. And by a little, I mean lunch. Wait, wasn't breakfast supposed to be the energy source until dusk? Ah. It seems the foreman also realizes that hunger in the afternoon will only make your work less effective, which is why lunch is also included in the schedule. Of course, terms and conditions apply. Lunch is nothing more than a short break from work, only about half an hour. You sit on the newly laid stones of the wall, under the vast sky. Again, be careful. Don't let your sitting position lead you to your final rest before eating. Regarding the menu, you are lucky. Your lunch portion is usually slightly more than breakfast, perhaps a thicker bowl of corn porridge and some boiled vegetable leaves. Again, meat is an impossible dream, even though you need more protein to continue your work. The positive side is that during this lunchtime, you become human again. You are no longer a machine that only knows how to work without being able to protest. In this moment, you share stories with other workers, whispers about the village you left, the family you miss. The emperor may always boast about this long wall, which is essentially just a military product, but not you. The official name of this wall is Wanli Changcheng, the 10,000 Li Wall, but you and your unfortunate friends probably call it the Wall of 10,000 Sufferings. Oh yes, Li is the unit of length you use in the empire. Death is a topic you cannot avoid. A coworker who was next to you yesterday, or who you talked to during lunchtime, might be gone today due to an accident. I mentioned it already. Maybe crushed by a stone, slipped down the slope, or perhaps due to disease rampant in the unhygienic barracks. People in the modern era always think that the bones of your friends become part of the wall's material, but that's just a myth. Decomposition would weaken the brick structure, leading to a wall that easily collapses, and the imperial military doesn't want that to happen. In some cases, death might be the better option, while you who are still alive have to keep working, haunted by guilt and sadness over losing a friend. Anyway, your work continues. Afternoon starts to appear, and your energy is depleted, but the foreman's demands only increase. You have to finish the day's quota of bricks. Those very large bricks must be arranged with precision, and you are the one in charge of that section. Make sure the bricks are tight, and every gap is perfectly filled. Otherwise, the wall could collapse, and your head will become a lesson for all workers. Finally, the evening gong sounds, a sound greeted with groans of relief. You gather your tools and return to the barracks, leaving the newly laid bricks under the sky, letting them turn into a silhouette beneath the twilight. It looks magnificent, and your suffering is depicted there. You continue to look at it because you know the same activities will repeat tomorrow.